These emotional scenes at Halifax Town's ground on Saturday tell the unique story of a town's struggle to save its football team. Hundreds of distraught fans refused to leave the Shay long after the 1-0 defeat confirmed the club was out of the league. Hereford's Derek Hall became the reluctant goal scorer. A former Halifax player, he sealed his old club's fate. The biggest crowd at the Shay for some years had witnessed the saddest day in the club's long history.
Well, it was obviously very emotional after the game. All the lads were upset and there was a few tears shed, but there's not a lot you can do about it now. Even if we'd have won, Northampton still won.
I think if people rally around like they have this last few matches, well, I think we'll be all right. So it just boils down to finance. In these lower divisions, that's what it, that's what it is.
48 hours on, and the directors say harsh decisions have to be made about whether the club is financially viable or whether it must fold.
We've got the accountants in this week, early on this week, just looking at how much we actually owe. We'll work out a complete balance sheet as to who owes us money, whether it's going to be a viable proposition. I'll be ringing around our sponsors that have sponsored us this season, people that have advertised with us this season, asking them to hopefully carry on with us again next season in the conference.
Well, I don't think the local taxpayers would agree to the council subsidising the football club, but using the comments I've just made, the football club, if it's in the Vauxhall Conference, the ground standards may not have to be as high, so the costs could be reduced. If that follows through, then the charges made could be reduced.
Halifax's record crowd is almost 37,000 in the early 50s when they entertained Spurs in the FA Cup. Today the hardcore is closer to 1,200. Former chairman John Madeley, now living abroad, played his own part in a history of struggle.
It's the old story that you have diminishing gates and more costs all the time. So they have a recipe for disaster in the lower leagues when people don't go watch the game. It's a great shame.
News of the club's predicament came off the presses of the local paper this afternoon, and the message that Halifax is losing part of its identity is beginning to sink in. Whether the townspeople lose their football club for good is a question still waiting to be answered.
Well, John.